Welcome. How's it going?
It's going.
It's going? Well, as long as it's going. That's fine. Okay. Welcome to Oregon Technical. That's fine. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
You are ready. All right. So it's kind of a rough schedule threw together of different workshops. Basically, like what we're going to be going over. So this workshop, we're going over what to ask yourself before making a film, like doing a proposal, scripting, and storyboarding. Basically, I mean, we're just kind of doing a basic rundown of that stuff. Next weekend is going to be the big one. There's production, camera operation, scene setting, all that stuff. But this is all like the preparation of making a film, which is very important. So, pre-production. So these are like the questions you want to ask yourself before you make a film. Stuff like, why am I making this film? What is this film? Who's in this film? Who's going to watch this film? And how am I going to make this film? So, and we're going to go into all the questions one by one. So first one, why am I making this film? So is your goal just to entertain? Are you trying to like inform people of something? Or like convey an idea? You just want to make a film just to make one? Basically it comes down to like what is your motivation for making that film? So that's basically why am I making this film? So what is this film? Well, there's many different genres, styles of film. It's pretty self-explanatory. Action, drama. Do you want to make like a film noir film? And different kinds of films have a different kind of filming style. I think noir is the best example of like a different style film. There's a lot of different stuff that goes into the different kinds of films. And that'll come back in during production, so it's like, do you want to start the camera?
It's going.
Oh, it's going?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm recording it for people that miss it. So, like noir films.
Playing songs in the car. Hey, everybody.
Hey, want to be a filmmaker?
I'd love to, but...
Second question, would you want to win a GoPro Hero 3 Black Edition? I'm just saying.
I can win a GoPro?
Potentially, yes.
For doing what?
For making a film.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So, like noir filming, one thing that really characterizes noir, at least for like the actual shot, they play hugely with shadows. It just conveys the feel of noir film. Like I said, every kind of film has a different kind of approach that you take to it. So, and then like what kind of story is it? There's, 7 stories? Basically, everything can be broken down into like 7 stories. There's like the hero's tale, some of those. Not sure exactly all the 7. I'm pretty sure. Never actually looked it up. But realistically, there's like 7 stories that are just told thousands of different ways. So, moving on. Who is in this film? So, not necessarily like the actors, but the characters in the film. So, there's, like it says there, antagonist, protagonist, like who is the bad guy, who's the good guy, supporting characters, stuff like that. The characters that make the plot happen, essentially. Who is going to watch this film? It can really be summed up with one word: demographics. Who are you going for? Like, are you trying to entertain a certain age group? Like you said last night, Michael Bay, or no, it was you. He said that, and like Michael Bay, he's like, I make movies for 14-year-old boys, teenage boys. That's his group, and it works for that group very well. So you can take that approach and not be a good film director, but. So yeah, I mean, you really got to just look at like who you want to watch your movie, and then kind of gear it towards that. How are you going to make this film? So ahead of time, you got to like think of like what you have as resources, like what you already have, how much money you can spend, so what your budget is. Obviously, this film festival, you don't really need a budget because we're kind of providing everything. But as part of the resources, we have OTB. Hopefully, if those cameras get here soon enough, they will have 4 of these. with 4 of these. So all the videos that I make, I don't know if you've seen any of them, but I make them all with this setup right here. This camera, this lens, and you should be ordering 4 of these.
What's the lens?
This is the 50 prime, Plastic Magic. It's the f1.8.
Okay.
These lenses are fantastic. They're only like $100, and they put out amazing, amazing video quality. So that's what he's working on. They also have a couple of those cameras. They got a bunch of stuff. And how many computers do you have?
We've got 3 right now. We're working on getting a 4th set up.
Okay. With Adobe what?
Adobe CS6.
The whole premium suite?
Yeah, everything.
Exactly. So that's After Effects, Premiere Pro, Photoshop. Like, you got it all right there. It's no problem. So, and then like, who's going to be working with you, stuff like that. Okay, so actually, not that. So we decided that we were going to go briefly cover like how scripting is put together and storyboarding and how it can then be put into a scene. You guys all watched. Here, let's see here. What scene was I going to go with? Can't remember. Okay, so you guys watched the scene of the T-Rex chasing them, right? And you saw how it all was all put together. Well, when you come down to the scripting, it comes like right here. This is Malcolm in the Jeep, and he's saying like, "I'm fairly alarmed here." He's like by himself, and then Ellie and Malcolm come up over the embankment, excited because they found the other vehicle or whatever. Then Malcolm's like, "We gotta move. We gotta go. So this is dialogue when it's indented like this, and you title it with the character. And then descriptors like they stop talking, the booming is louder now and faster, much faster. They look back over their shoulders. And then back into dialogue, and it goes step by step, explains what is happening in that scene. So it's not necessarily describing like the exact environment, but enough so you know the environment and you know like how the characters are acting. And you know, enough of the environment, like so like it says like the booming is getting much louder. That's obviously a very crucial part of that scene. And then it goes on. Tyrannosaurus smashes out of the jungle foliage, bursts onto the road, and runs straight at them. And go, 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 go. So you can see really well like how it's laid out. So then you take the script and you take it into a storyboard, which is basically a storyboard is, if you don't know what that is, it's you draw the scenes. You know, on a piece of paper, there's applications that you can do it through, and we're actually going to be doing a little bit here, so it'll be fun. Hello. So one thing that's really cool is this comes with. Want to be a filmmaker? Oh, not that button. So, go over here, and they have a storyboard of, oh, no, not that one. Not that one. Damn it. Oh, this is going to take me all the way back. Damn it. Okay. I got it this time. Got to figure it out. Now, obviously, our storyboards do not need to be this ridiculous. Let's see, is this the right one? Yes. So, there's the T-Rex coming through the foliage. That's like through the Jeep from the perspective of the front. Jeep goes driving off. And it's basically just setting up like what the scenes are going to look like. There's him like looking in the mirror. And they hire people specifically for this. Like there are people. That very iconic scene, obviously the mirror closer than they appear. So it gives like what it's going to look like, where the cameras are going to be placed, stuff like that, and the sequence that it's going to go through. Again, that is very elaborate. Like we're probably just going to be doing stick figures because it's way easier, and we're not Steven Spielberg, who has money to pay people to do this. So that's basically how the script is turned into a storyboard. They don't have dialogue here, but they have like what's happening. So that way, when you go to make the film, you know exactly what to do. You're like, okay, right here, this is the next scene. This is the next scene. And you can shoot all that, just like that. So, it's really cool that they actually included this.
So one way to think about it is that the script is kind of what the actors are supposed to do, and the storyboard is more what the cameraman is supposed to do. So you have those two different aspects, and they can overlap some, but that's generally the kind of the difference
Yeah.
in purpose.
So, we are going to do our own right now. So, I don't know if I told all of you what the challenge is actually going to be. So, videos that are going to be in the film festival are going to be between 2 and 5 minutes in length. And the main parameter is that you will pick a word from a list that I have made, and that will become the title of your video. And the video has to revolve around that title. So the example we're going to be using that isn't going to be an option is the word backwards. So let's generate some ideas. Like what is one way that you can interpret the word backwards? Go.
Film a whole like a whole movie and then in post just reverse it.
Exactly. There's a way to interpret backwards. There's one interpretation. Anything else?
You have like a complex storyline that explains the end of the movie before it explains the beginning.
Exactly. Memento. Anything else? One that I thought of was like this is kind of a more comedic approach. It can be serious too, but the comedic approach would be 2 roles have been switched. So they're backwards. So like it would be one video that I eventually want to do is it could be the jock and the nerd, and their roles are completely switched. Like the nerd is like the popular guy in school, and the jock, like quarterback, is intimidated by him. Sort of, that's backwards. That's not like what it normally is. So it's just kind of like to show what you can do with a word. We were looking at this list earlier, and we're like, oh my god, we're getting so many ideas of videos that we can do just looking at this list of words. So it's actually a fantastic challenge. I'm really excited about it. So we're going to do backwards. Any other ideas on interpretation of that word?
Oh, maybe if time is actually moving backwards instead of forwards, something like that. Not
Okay.
very good at that.
So kind of like a Curious Case of Benjamin Button almost. Well, he ages backwards.
Okay.
So that's another interpretation of the word. But, yeah, no, I think I get what you're saying. And the one that you had said was everyone's like moving backwards.
Oh yeah, so you film a scene or whatever, and then in post you reverse it like he had said, but then you have one person who's interacting with the backwards world, and he's trying to figure out what's going on with it.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So, what do we want to go with? We're going to make this. Any votes? It looks like we're going with Rocco. Okay, so we have the general idea of what we're going to be doing. Sorry.
Okay, it's basically my idea.
You are the weakest link. Okay, so we have a world that's moving backwards and one person who is lost in said world that is going backwards. So, since this is a short video, what kind of interaction do we want to have?
Waiting in lines, or like having to deal with like a lot of people, like at a fair or something, like when you're waiting in line to get to a booth, everyone's all like bunched up, maybe like moving the wrong way compared to him.
Could be. Also got to go back to that planning of resources.
Yeah.
We don't have a fair.
I know not a fair. We have a cafeteria. A fair is an example. Large groups we're all doing the same thing. But we have a cafeteria. And a large group of people
That
are
is
all
true.
doing the same thing.
So there's one idea.
What if they're eating backwards too?
Let's not do the
Put it up like a library, because everyone would be reading backwards.
That'd be
So you
cool.
start backwards.
Okay, so someone's reading backwards. I like it. Okay. So we got that. Anything else?
People going to bed in the morning, waking up at night.
I think that's called working the graveyard shift.
Still backwards.
Just a documentary about working graveyard shift. Backwards. Okay, so do we like the idea of the library? Because we have a library at our disposal. It can be pretty simple. Now, where does the protagonist come into play? What is he doing when he's trying to figure out this backwards world?
Well, we have the campus. We just be going through a school day. See people going between classes. People in the library.
Okay,
Is the world unusual to him, or has he lived there for before?
that's a good question to ask. What do we want? Do we want him,
Would be funnier. I think. Then you get all of his like weird reactions.
like, what the hell is this?
You have
What's
him
going
coming out of like a dorm room or something like that, and someone like walking backwards down the hallway.
I like it.
And you'd be like, what the?
Okay, all right.
So it's like he just gets up.
And suddenly everything has changed. There we go. So,
we might want to have one beforehand, like a scene beforehand of where everything's normal. It's just a guy in his life, and then he wakes up the next day and it's like,
Yeah, and have some kind of like a shift in how, like how you, like just film an ordinary thing of like what's even happening, and then he wakes up there's like some kind of a shift for the audience. What's going on?
okay. So, we have,
Groundhog Day.
so,
It's just Groundhog Day, right? Basically, except everything's going backwards instead of everything being repeated.
kind of, yeah. You got it. You're getting it. It's pretty much the idea. So we want, like, normal, like, what do we want him to be doing that's normal the day before? Do we want him, like, interacting with a person the night before, like he just brushes, or she or he, whoever the main character is, like brushes their teeth and says, hey, good night, or whatever.
Have them talking about meeting at the library then today.
There you go. See? So we already have foreshadowed where they're going to be later in the video. So they're having a conversation with someone who's acting perfectly normal. Where do we want to do that?
Lounge.
There you go. All right, so Sid, let's get this going. Okay, so just generating some ideas. So backward world. That's not how you spell that. Words hurt. Okay. Backwards world. One day. Yeah, it's the same thing.
there's yoga at night, it's right.
One day fine. Next it's not. Okay, and then, so, we have the first interaction. Our video starts night before in lounge. Nailed it. There we go. Okay. So, just interacting with a friend saying, let's meet at the library tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Or whatever, shut up. So, we got that, and then he's going to bed, and then wakes up. Now, do we want to do anything that immediately is the first thing he noticed the person walking by, or is there going to be something in the video that suggested before?
How about his clock is actually going backwards? Can we do that?
I like it.
So like at midnight he goes to bed, and then it shows the clock going like 11:59.
Yeah, or something like that.
So I actually like that idea, because what we could do is show like an alarm clock at like 7:01,
Yeah.
and then have it change to 7 o'clock and go off.
Yeah.
Could be pretty cool. So, all right, clock going backwards, alarm goes off. So then opens door to person walking backwards. Okay, so we got that first interaction. We know like what's going to be happening. So and this is just jotting down ideas of like the general idea, and then this can then later be kind of turned into the script. So we have the first interaction of the person walking backwards. He's like, what's going on? So then, what do you want to do from there?
He's got to brush his teeth, eat breakfast, do something for getting ready for the day, and then walk to the library.
Okay. All right. So, confused, but people are weird. So whatever. Okay, and then
Have him take a shower and have someone get out of the shower dry.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Ooh.
Like walk in wet and get out dry.
I'm also thinking, what if his breakfast, he has something that he puts in the microwave to heat it up, and he pulls it out and it's frozen?
okay,
Watch some
so cooked food is actually not cooked. Okay, what else we got? And we can like make a bunch of examples of things that are going backwards and only pick like one or two of them. But generating all these ideas, we have enough to choose from. We can even if we can't decide, we can still film all of them, and then in post when we're editing, we can decide, okay, I don't really like this shot, scrap it, and then use this one instead. So it's always good to have too much, and never good to have not enough. I've done that before, where I've had not enough, and then it was like, well, that just ruined the whole project. Like, I've actually wasted hours of my life because I didn't plan. So, that's why we're doing this. So we got, person gets out of the shower dry, pull the food out and it's not cooked. So, at this point, he's starting to get pretty confused. Like, this is... The food one would be a dead giveaway immediately. So that's why I kind of like the person getting out of the shower dry, he's just like, what is wrong with people today? Why?
You could have him like experiment with it a little bit too, like once it starts catching on a little bit, you could like play with it and see if it's like real or if it's people just messing with it.
Okay.
So like you could like put food in the freezer and it come out hotter than it went in. It's like a cup of noodles, puts it in the freezer, and then it's like cooked when he pulls it out.
I like it. So, starts testing it. Cup of noodles. Sure. In freezer, comes out hot. There we go. Okay. So we have that as a definite possibility. So then at this point, like we could have set it up to where they're meeting at the library in the morning. So that way it's like at the start of the day, and so he's like, whatever, I got to get to the library. This is weird. I'll see if it's still happening there. Like, he's confused, obviously. So, then goes to the library. Do we want any interactions between there?
People walking backwards. Yes, people walking backwards. The same amount of people you would see walking to the library. Dorms, probably.
Perfect. People walking backwards. Okay, so then he gets to the library. What's actually really cool is in editing, in Premiere Pro, you can take two video clips and layer them and just crop one over. So you can have like a person like rewind the video so the person's walking backwards on one side of the screen and have the other one like forward so they're like, what? So you can still make it look with a tripod shot, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, once you're off the tripod, you're starting to work with much more complex stuff. So they could actually be fairly easily done, which is nice. And we'll go over that on the third workshop. So gets to the library. What's happening here? Do we want...
Yeah, so he comes up to his friend, maybe, and he's at the front of the book, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm just about done with this book. Even though it looks like he just started it or something.
That could be good. Now, here's one question. Do we want him to talk backwards? And he's talking backwards, and the main character notices this and is confused by it. But when the main character themselves talks, it's translated. So the friend understands what he's saying.
But does he understand what his friend's saying?
No. So, that work?
Okay, do we want subtitles for the friend speaking backwards so the audience knows what the friend is saying?
That's a good question to ask. Let's see here. Okay, so gets the library. Wow, that's not. Wow, that's right. I thought that was wrong. Shows friend at front of book. Almost done. Okay? So then starts talking. Starts talking to friends. Friend understands, but talks backwards. There we go. All right. Now what?
That was the idea. Get into the library.
So do we want to have like a conversation between the two of them?
I think that could be really difficult because like talking to someone where they can understand you and you can understand them is like really frustrating.
Yeah. That's what's funny.
Yeah. But like I'm just saying filming that could be difficult because it'd be hard to like script. I think it'd be hard to script.
It'd be very hard to script. But if you script them and then just flip the letters around,
Effectively.
then
Yeah, just script it like a conversation where one person doesn't know what's going on, and then just reverse the audio and post.
see that one, that could work. I think it would seem more real if they tried, if like we put the words up and flipped them around, and the person tried to, like the person that was backwards
Yeah.
read the words backwards.
Because like if you flip audio, you can tell that it's not.
Exactly.
You can't make the sound backwards.
Well, so that's what I was almost thinking. It might be easier if you just write usual sentences and then just say every word opposite. Read the sentences from the end to the beginning, because then it would kind of make sense. It would be
Mhm.
really bizarre.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so just say the words just in the opposite order.
Yeah.
Okay. So then conversation between the two of them.
You could like start to catch on or not. Because if someone says a sentence backwards to you, you might start to catch on after like.
Well, that's like when he really catches on,
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is-
Well, I mean, if you have him say something like his friend just says like you were late, then he's just be like saying late you are. Be like, okay, like, and he would get it, and then
Mhm.
he'd slowly start to pick up, and then you have to like pause after every sentence to like reverse it in his
Yeah.
head, and then his
Okay.
friend would be like, what's wrong with you, man? Like you're acting really weird today.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so conversation takes time to interpret. That's not right. Whatever. This is a rough draw. Okay, so conversation takes time to interpret, but friend thinks main character is acting weird. Okay. So, how do we want to maybe conclude this?
You could do a point of view shot of the protagonist going backwards. So like he's joined the backwards world. So like you could just track his progress to the library backwards back to his room. That would be the end of the video.
That could work. So basically just rewind it.
Yeah.
So we can write that.
And that could be like when he fully like gets it, like when he understands. Like as soon as he understands it, like it becomes it.
The audience doesn't really understand, but he understands. There's some like bigger thing that's happening, and he's like, oh, now I know why everything's backwards. And then he starts going backwards, and the audience is like, what?
And it could be him trying to fit into the world so that people don't judge him.
So it's like just a little bit off.
Yeah.
Like his backwardness is.
There's just going some entire avenue that isn't concluded.
To get in by going backwards. I really like that. That's not the right word. Yeah. So, okay. And then I'm trying to think of how it can be concluded. Like maybe he, or the main character, goes to bed that night. That morning. And then wakes up and everything's back to normal. And it was just some weird experience. Or, actually, end it with the alarm clock saying 6:59, going to 7, and going off. So it was a dream.
Yeah.
That could be good.
Yeah. That'd be an easy way to do it.
So we can write that down. So back to alarm clock, going in the right direction. Sure. It was a dream. A weird dream. So we got all of that by looking at a word. Pretty awesome. So we already got basically what we want to do. Is there anything else that we can think of that we want to do?
At the end, when he wakes up, he would say, "Whew, I gotta lay off the Kool-Aid." Or something like that.
And that should be backwards.
And then he just like, because he thinks his back's to nowhere, and he's like, whew. And then he says a sentence backwards, and he's just like looks at the camera or something.
Yeah.
Total Inception. Okay.
I like that.
This line backwards. Man, we're totally ending it with that top from Inception. People are like, what? That's really good. Actually, I really like this video already. Okay, so we got backwards world. One day fine, next it's not. Video starts the night before in a lounge. Pretty much just basic steps in. Hey, you want to meet in the library tomorrow? Hey, you want to be a filmmaker?
I have to go to inventory.
Oh, well, that's lame. Well, we'll be right out here.
Okay.
When you want to become a filmmaker.
Alright, I'll check it out.
You don't want to say ignore that. Get out of my life. Whatever. I don't care. Okay. So this is a very short introductory, so showing that it is a normal world. And then go to sleep. Then the alarm clock is going backwards. That's how we started off. Opens door to person walking backwards. Doesn't really pay attention to the clock, and it's just that immediate realization, like, what? And like, as they're walking backwards down the hall, just like peek out the door. Confusion. Okay. And then confused, but it's like, it's a weird school. Live with strange people here. So then we can have any number of things for the next interaction. So like, person gets out of the shower dry. So that could just be like and we can do any of these again. Person gets out of the shower dry, cooked food is actually not cooked. And then he starts like to test it. Do we want to cut that and have him just go from there to going to the library?
Yeah, I'd like just walking to the library.
Okay.
I don't.
Because this is a 2 to 5 minute submission.
Yeah.
So you got to keep it short and sweet.
Like a couple second deal of walking to the library and just seeing someone like walking upstairs or walking stairs backwards. Or something like that.
And that can also be a pretty easy thing to do. So like if we're out in front of the CU or whatever, we can set the tripod up and have like a person walking up the stairs in one shot, and then have him walking down the stairs on the other side in another shot, and just crop the video over and have the person walking backwards down the stairs as he's like looking over at this person walking backwards down the stairs like, what? So that's actually pretty easy to edit right there for a really cool effect. So then gets to the library. Got that. Oh, he's walking backwards. Backwards. Downstairs. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Oh, not bad, not bad.
Sorry we're late. Took us a while to find you.
It's all good. We're just kind of going for it and making a video. So we kind of talked about some of the preparation for making videos, questions you want to ask yourself, like why am I making this film, who's in it, what are my resources, stuff like that. And then we talked about scripting and storyboarding. And right now we've been generating a video idea. And basically with the film festival, what we're doing is videos are going to be 2 to 5 minutes in length,
and the challenge is I have a list of words that I've generated. And every person or team chooses one word, and that becomes the title of their video. And then they have to interpret that however they want to. And so the example that we're going to be doing throughout these workshops and film festival is the word backwards. So we've been brainstorming, and we basically come up with the structure of the video and how we want it to be. So the video starts off, and it's basically about a backwards world. So a person, it's fine one day, and then the next day everything is backwards. So a person is like in a lobby with a friend, like, hey, you want to meet at the library tomorrow morning? They're going to work on homework. They're like, yeah, all right. So it's totally fine. They go to bed, and the next scene is going to show like an alarm clock, and it's going to say the time like 7:01, and then it's going to click back to 7 o'clock, and the alarm's going to go off. Something like that. So automatically, like, time itself is going backwards. Wakes up, doesn't think much about it, walks down the hall, and someone's walking backwards. Confused, like, okay, people are weird, whatever. So then, after that, they just get ready to go, and they start going to the library. And on the way there, people are walking backwards. One shot was like them walking downstairs and have just in the edit like crop the video so that it's two videos, and have one of the main person walking down the stairs and take another video of a person walking up them and then reverse it. So they're walking down the stairs backwards right next to our character. Like, what is going on? Main character's super confused. So then they get to the library, and then approaches their friend who's there with a book. And it's like at the very front of the book, and they turn a page backwards, they're like, oh, just about done. But their script is switched around. So we're going to set up like an actual script for them to say, but then we're going to reverse the words. So the words are going to be said normally, but they're just going to be in backwards order. So the main character is then trying to interpret what their friend is saying while talking with normal language, like normal sentences. The friend understands what they're saying. They don't notice that it's a backwards word. But the main character cannot understand what their friend is saying. So it's like this frustration, and the friend is like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, what's going on? But backwards. All messed up. So then, from there, we didn't really have a very clear step from the conversation to the next part, but they finally realized that, oh my god, I'm in a backwards world and I look like an idiot. So then you see the main character trying to fit into this world, like walking backwards, but you can totally tell that they're like looking back behind him, trying to walk backwards and do all that stuff. And then they go to sleep, and it cuts back to the alarm clock again, and it says like 6:59, clicks over to 7 o'clock, goes off. So time is back to normal. Main character wakes up, looks at the time, says a line, but says it backwards. End of the video. So that's what we got out of the word backwards, which is what's really cool about what we're doing for the competition. So like I have a list of 40 words, and everyone gets to choose a word, and that's where their video is going to go. So, and then we just kind of jotted down the ideas, and then from here we're going to probably make a script and then try and do some storyboarding. Just kind of give an idea of what is done. You are welcome. So, do we want, like, we should probably, well, let's just start working on the script. So, we can go here, and new. Sure, yeah, create, do it. All right, so, script. I'm very professional. Okay, so, now let's do the script. And in the script that you saw from the Jurassic Park, it gives pretty clear descriptors of what's going on in the environment. It doesn't necessarily say the exact characteristics of the environment, but it does say, like, what's happening. So we can say something to the extent of, let's give the main character a name. What's their name? Steve. Steve is in a lobby talking to a friend. Then from here, we tab inwards and we say who's talking. So this is Steve. And Steve says, this is just a very short scene, so he's like, oh, we don't need to put quotation marks. So you want to meet in the library? Or like, what time do you want to meet at the library tomorrow? Sound good? Alright. What time do you want to meet at the library tomorrow?
If his clock's going backwards, how does he know what time it's going?
Well, it's in the morning, so he wakes up, gets ready, and heads out. Basically. So we're probably going to say 7:30, because Steve's the kind of person that wakes up at 7 to meet someone at 7:30. That's just how they are. Want to be a filmmaker?
Me?
Yeah?
Not today.
Bummer. Okay, what's the friend's name? I don't think it really matters. Well, friend. Friend. 7:30 sound good to you? Question mark? Steve. Actually, I believe there's another tab for the names. Okay. Sure. Very simple dialogue, very, very brief. So then we have a descriptor of Steve leaves and goes to room. So we also got to add the fact that this is in the lobby. So scene 1, not that, 1. In lobby. Why would you? Don't format it. Undo. Stop it. Don't ever do that again. Don't tell me I live my life. Okay. So 2. In the bedroom. Sure. So do we want to have what do we want the character doing before he goes to bed? Setting his alarm, maybe? Okay. Steve is setting his alarm clock for 7 a.m. Alright. Now, does anybody have an alarm clock that has the AM, FM, like AM or PM on it? You do? Nice. That way he's setting for AM and it goes off at 7 o'clock PM. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so set clock for 7 a.m. Gets in bed. Shot fades. Fades to black.
James, I had an idea.
Go.
What if you have the shot set up so you see him set his alarm, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to bed. And you have the shot so that you can see him flop into bed. And the camera stays there and it fades to morning. It's the same shot, but it's daylight. And you see the clock at 7:01, and then it goes back to 7. So it holds that shot instead of it.
Okay. How do we... The only tricky part is he's going to bed at who knows what time, like midnight or something. And then getting it to change nicely.
But you would have to keep the tripod set up all day, and then record in the morning, keep everything
Trap file.
So, yeah, that might be a little bit complicated. But again, that is something to work with a little bit later on, for when you're storyboarding. So, okay, so Steve is setting his alarm clock for 7 a.m., gets in bed, and then that can change later, but shot fades to black. Clock reads 7:01, changes to 7 o'clock p.m. and goes off. Alright. Then Steve gets up and turns off an alarm clock. Perfect. So, and this can be him like waking up, going out into the hallway, immediately goes to exit room and opens door to person walking backwards. Okay, so now we got basically first little bit of dialogue. Now we got what happens in the bedroom. All right, so the bedroom scene is over. Okay, so then the next scene. Where do we want to go from here? Do we want to cut to him like looking around, confused, and then what does he do next? Is it going to jump to him like whatever, and then leaving?
If you just have him grab his shower stuff and walk out, then you can see the guy walking backwards, but be like, what? And then you can just go straight to the shower where you see someone getting out dry. And be like, what? And then you can just take a shower, get into the shower, whatever. And then after that, kind of take the scene, whatever. But you can do that all in one scene.
Okay.
What if you had two people walking in the shower? One person with their towel on, soaking wet, walk into the shower, pull the curtain back, put the towel over the bar, and then turn on the shower, and then another person in the next stall walk out with the dry.
Could work. Definitely could. It's getting a little bit complicated for this short of a video, but I like where you're thinking.
It could be like one shot.
Mhm.
Every camera.
Okay, so to a person walking backwards. So how do we edit that here? So in your words, go.
So this would be one shot in the shower room, two stalls right next to each other. He walks into the. You don't see him in the room at all, but he sees what's going on.
Okay.
One person walks into the shower wet. Person in the next stall walks out of the shower dry.
Okay. So Steve watches person walk in the shower wet and one person walk out dry.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from here, is it going to jump to him going to the library?
You could have insert shots of him doing the various other things. You could just him in the kitchen, somebody with the microwave. So you could have like a little montage of some of the other scenes if you choose to film that.
Mhm.
But afterwards, the next important scene would be him walking to them and seeing somebody go down the stairs.
Okay. So for 3, we want just montage of
Suspicious
backwards activity. So that could be food coming out. That's not right. Out, not cooked. What else is there? Yep.
Cup noodles.
Food cooked by freezer. Was there any others? Let's see here. I got it. We're good. Maybe not. Nope, that was all. Okay. Hello? Want to be a filmmaker? 5.
Sounds good. I gotta go.
Well, that's not a good excuse. Okay, so 4. Let's see here. That one's kind of quick right now. 4 is on the way to the library. So, on the way to the library. Okay, so on the way to the library. Now here we're just going to. This one's a pretty short one too because it's just him going from one place to another. And really the biggest scene is what I thought would be good is the stairs and having the person walking backwards down the stairs, and then him being all confused, and then like approaching the library and going in the library. So just a really quick scene. So Steve is walking downstairs while other person is walking down the same stairs backwards. Steve is super confused. Okay. And then Steve approaches library entrance. Okay? And then from there we cut to inside the library. We'll take over. Anybody knows? Convenient.
Oh, okay. All right. So Steve approaches the library entrance. Okay, so he comes inside the library and then he sees his friend in there. Is that what's going to happen?
Steve's in his phone.
Okay. Reading out a reading book. Okay, so then his friend is going to say something first here. And he's going to comment about how he's almost finished with the book or something like that, or it's a good book. Okay, but of course, this he's actually saying backwards. So what's Steve going to say in response to that?
Just be like,
Okay.
Finished on about 9.
Okay. I'm going to repeat it slower.
yeah.
And look at him like he's kind of stupid.
Unnamed Jimbo, I don't know.
And storyboarding will be easier once you know like the proper way to set up a camera. Knowing where to point the camera is very important. So storyboarding might not necessarily be perfect at this point because you don't know the proper camera angles, you don't know like the 180 degree rule, the stuff that you don't really know yet will make it easier to do a storyboard for the next.
So Steve, Jimbo, cut back to Steve. What was it? It was time do you want to meet? 7:30, sure. And then Steve gets up to leave. Now he's standing up, leaving room.
And if you have like a dialogue scene that's like back and forth, don't draw every piece of dialogue because it's like the same exact picture.
Yeah.
So there's like an opening scene of the two people, then it goes to Steve, goes back to Jimbo. Those are basically the two shots of the dialogue scene. They have their conversation. Steve gets up and leaves. Boom.
No, so that's scene 1. Terribly drawn by yours truly. So now we move to scene 2, which is in the bedroom. So you see Steve. Setting his alarm clock for 7. Very accurately drawn. And then going to bed. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's got to be a close-up shot of the clock so you can see when it's setting.
So you see the close-up for the alarm clock for 7 a.m. You see Steve getting into bed. In bed. Bam. Beautiful.
And so we're all just doing a very rough storyboard because realistically,
storyboard, like if you're trying to plan every single shot and you want a good looking video, you would have an angle of the blanket being pulled back on the bed, and you'd have a different angle of him getting into the bed. And I mean, there's just so many angles that go into it. You know.
Cool. So then the next shot is the alarm clock clicking over to 7:01 and then back, right?
Yeah, it's on 7:01, then it clicks to 7.
Okay. So we have.
And it's PM.
Oh wait, 7:01.
Because it's not right. Perfect.
So that happens, then he just gets up.
You could either do a close-up on him, like,
Hitting
kind of waking up,
Actually-
and then a shot of him, like, slapping it.
I feel like just a hand coming in and hitting the clock would be good.
Okay.
And then you can cut right to the showers.
Well, you have to, no, because he's got a door on doors.
Well, if he's walking into the shower, he will block down the door somewhere.
Hands are hard.
Strong. One line with 5 lines coming out. There we go.
Bam.
Perfect.
I wouldn't have guessed it to be anything else.
Exactly, right? Well, hold on.
Arm. Band.
Problem solved. Just label everything and then there's now. It's just like math. If you label something, it's just depending on what it is. Okay, so then he
Grabs shower stuff.
grabs shower stuff. Okay.
And this could also be a close-up of the items that he's grabbing. And then
Towel and some shampoo.
That would stay with into the same feel as like just the hand hitting it and then grabbing the bag.
and it makes it feel like it's a quick progression, so there's not a lot of time between him turning off the alarm clock.
Yeah, he hits it, he gets up, he grabs his towel, his shampoo, his bag of whatever, and he opens the door. Okay, so. Shower stuff. Okay, right? Got the shower stuff. And then for the open door shot, do we just want to show like the door opening?
I'd
and
say
the guy
like
walking by backwards? Or do we want to see like Steve open the door?
I would like to see a quick progression of hitting the alarm clock, grabbing the shower stuff, hand on the door, like a close-up of a hand on the door, opening the door, and then like a point of view shot of the door opening to a person walking backwards.
Okay, cool. So let's see. This is doorknob. With a hand. View with hand with arm. That's doorknob. I'm gonna label that one.
Probably the better.
Doorknob. Okay. And then point of view shot of door opening. So let's see, person. Walking backwards. Through and out the doorway. Kind of, whatever.
Make
Good
it
enough.
right on their point of view
Yeah.
outdoor. Because you know sometimes you can't really tell, so you also got to add descriptions of like what's happening in that scene.
Point of view outdoor. Okay, then we cut to like what, Steve going like what the hell or what?
Just kind of like peeks his head out the door.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having the person walking back, like walks backwards past the door, and then it's a shot down the hall with the person walking backwards, and then Steve poking his head out the door.
Okay. So, see, person going backwards. Here's the door. Steve poking his head out. That?
Yep.
Cool.
Watch the arrow. It's very clear what direction they're
I
going.
know, right?
They're going
Just
up.
gonna, like,
Wow.
it's fine. Cool. So after that,
His face, maybe? Or do we want to just have one in the shot?
Because we could have one where it's actually looking kind of into his room and he's sticking his head out or something. If you have a wide enough angle lens to do that. I don't know.
About 50 prime lens.
so like maybe a close one from Steve's face, so we can see the confusion.
Actually, yeah, for the next shot, like, as Steve pokes his head out, get a closer shot of Steve's face, like, what?
So when he's poking his head out, we only see the back of his head. And then the camera flips and goes right to his face.
Yeah. You can just be like, what? Okay. So then he goes to the shower. Is that right? To the, okay. So then he goes to the shower, and he opens the shower, and he sees the one guy going in wet and coming out dry, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's see.
Now's the time to get your artistic skills really.
Right? Like, oh my god. So if we have shower room, there's like a bench here.
You can just kind of do a front view of the stalls.
And there's like,
Where, like,
the stalls.
The guy goes in.
And the guy.
Yeah, okay. It's out.
You would have to move the camera, probably. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
there's
you're
not
right.
really much
No,
space
it's
there,
just there, yeah.
especially if you're using the 50 prime lens, which is a fantastic lens. That's what I use on all my videos.
Yeah.
But it can be kind of hard to work with because it's a fixed 50 millimeters.
Water.
Crop sensor, it's basically a fixed 85 millimeter lens. Still totally worth it.
But you could do like a dolly shot of like him walking into the bathroom. And you have another guy walking behind him go into the next stall. And then in the last stall, the dragon comes out.
Good work. I think it'd be probably best to have like, because next week I'm going to show my shoulder rig, and use that sort of thing where it shows one person getting out of the shower or going into the shower wet, and then like pan over to the other person getting out of the shower dry.
Well, you can just do it simultaneously. Like, you just set up the camera in the entryway to the shower or whatever. You can just have one guy going in wet and the other guy coming out dry. Like, at the exact same
At the main entrance?
That could
Yeah.
work.
At the door.
At the door.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just prop the door to the shower open and put your camera right there.
Yeah, that'd be easier.
And you can do it all at once. Cool. Okay, cool. So then that same, and then what, the microwave, the frozen food or something?
Let's skip the storyboarding of that stuff.
Okay.
So for time reasons, and we don't necessarily have to storyboard everything today.
Yeah.
This is more for learning the process. So we can move on to the next part, which is outside.
Okay, so outside. So what do we want to do? Like, do we want to do like a large shot of like out front of the sea with a couple people walking backwards or something like that as Steve comes towards us or something?
My main idea was like maybe the front of the res hall, how it has the stairs there.
Mhm.
Have one person walking on one side of the stairs. Have it do a tripod shot. And
Is there
have
an easy place to set up a tripod there?
yeah.
Yeah. Like right
Dope.
at the main entrance. There's
Oh,
like
okay,
a huge
yeah.
flat area. Yeah, there's just super lane.
So are we like watching him go down the stairs, or like come towards
Watching
us?
him coming towards the camera.
Okay.
And we're doing two shots, one of that, and then we're doing another shot of a person walking up the stairs,
And we'll reverse
and then we're going to reverse it and crop it.
Okay.
Cool.
So is that person going to be walking next to him, or
Yes.
are going to stagger it?
They're going to be like right next to each other, and Steve's going to keep like looking over, like, what are you doing? Stop it.
I like this. Okay. So we have railing and stairs and And then another person, not Steve. Your eyes show that it's coming forward. You're going that way. So walls, that's all door. So, like that. So, like, we kind of see the doors in the background. We see Steve walking towards us, and this other person also walking towards us, but backwards. Right? Okay.
And then while that is going on, we can also cut to a shot of walking down the stairs next to Steve, and Steve like looking over.
Okay, so like we're like almost looking from the perspective of the person who's walking backwards,
Mhm.
and he just keeps looking at the camera and just been like, "What are you doing?" Okay, cool. So then after that,
And then it's approaching the library entrance.
okay.
So that way
We
we
could have him like hold the door, like open the door, and then have someone like walk backwards out of it. And be
Okay.
like, thanks. And then he'd be like, thanks.
That's good. And they also say thanks, and it's only one word.
Yeah,
so
it's only
it's-
one word. So,
So he's like, okay, wait, that's good.
that's
Yeah.
So then we also still establish that he's going to the library.
yeah. Okay, so. So here's doorway, door open. Got a backpack on. Person going backwards. You got it? Kinda. So he's holding the door open, someone walks out backwards.
I like it.
Cool.
Alright. And then from there,
And then he sees his friend sitting at a table, right?
and so we'll have like a long shot. Steve walks in, looks towards the camera, and then from there it'll be a long shot from Steve's perspective, seeing his friend
Okay, where's his friend sitting in the library?
on the first floor at one of those couches. I mean, that can be something that's kind of decided then, but we know that what the shot is the shot is shows them Steve walking in, looking at the camera, then the camera is looking at the friend.
Okay. So Steve walks in. So if this is the entrance, Steve walks in this way. Looks at the camera, and then so he looks at the camera, and then we see from like kind of like over Steve's shoulder kind of perspective, down. He sees his friend like at a table or something.
And if when you're planning your video, you feel confident in your scenes, you don't need to storyboard every single step of the way. But of course, be expecting a lot of scenes. Like, I was just trying to count out, because I did a video for Halloween that was less than 50 seconds in length. And, let's see here, I'm trying to think. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a lot of shots. And it took me 4 hours to edit a 50-second video. Granted, I was doing music, I was doing all sorts of stuff with it, but it took a lot of work, but it turned out really good. So,
Cool. So he sees his friend, kind of a long shot. So, not good perspective, so that's all you get. Then he goes up to his friend and starts dialogue, right? So at that point, I'm not going to storyboard the dialogue because it's boring. It's just like faces and stuff. So I'm just going to write dialogue scene. And then we have the montage of him like walking backwards back to the res hall, right? So I'm like trying to go through the library doors backwards. trying to go up the stairs backwards. Right. Was there anything else?
Until the ending scene of
Where you get some.
him going back to bed.
Okay, so I can't draw him trying to go through doors backwards effectively.
Let's call it good.
So I'm just gonna call that. I think that's conceptually enough for like storyboarding, but like that's the general idea of it. So that you actually have planned shots of perspective and stuff. Like I can't draw, so this is not as helpful, but it's still a little bit more helpful to kind of like picture the shots. So even if you don't physically storyboard, at least mentally storyboard all your shots before you actually go to take them. Because if you don't, then you'll show up and you'll be like, oh, I guess we can do this or that or the other thing. And then sometimes when you try and cut it together in post, it doesn't make sense. And like James was saying, he's wasted hours of his life filming stuff, realizing he didn't get enough, and then being like, well, shit, now I can't make a good video. I just wasted time.
Do you ever consider the time within this, or do you just have to film it, kind of create it first, and then within the edit try to push it all together?
Well,
You definitely can. Like you can like kind of like say like, I mean, this is like a couple seconds for that, the alarm clock thing. So that's maybe like 5 to 10 seconds or something of shots. So you can think about how long each scene will take in the shot and kind of like write it in there if you want to, so that you can think about how long your video is going to be. And then you have a rough idea of how much time you'll have, because it's a 2 to 5 minute video, so you need to kind of plan for your time, and then you can kind of rough estimate it out on paper. And then if you're really close to the 5 minute limit, you might think about cutting some scenes or making sure that you have scenes that are available to cut, or if it's at 2 minutes really close, you might think about adding extra scenes, so you can kind of like do a rough estimate on paper of how long the scene will take, so that you have a guesstimate of how long your video is going to be at the end.
yeah. And I mean, really always plan for more, and always shoot more than what you're going to need. Like I've had videos where, in total, it ended up taking up like I was able to cut like a 6-minute video out of the stuff, but then I got rid of all that junk that I didn't need, and it became like a 2.5-minute video. Yeah, so it's just kind of like realizing like, okay, what's going to keep the people engaged, what are they going to want to see, and then all that also depends on the planning. When you're also planning this, you got to plan for, again, resources. Like, what do you have at your disposal? Do you have more than one camera? If you do, you're lucky. Like, that's awesome. I really want another T3i so I can have 2 cameras set up. But, who all do you have at your disposal for acting and crew and stuff like that? So there's quite a bit that goes into the planning. It's just stuff to keep in mind. And going back to the storyboarding, this is a storyboard from Jurassic Park. And this is, well, I mean, it's fairly obvious. This is where they're up in the ceiling, and he, they go up, the Velociraptor comes up into the board, pins her, and he kicks it in the face. It falls down to the ground and tries to jump back up and get it. So you can see it there and how it's laid out. So they pretty much scripted all the interactions that they had, and then go to the movie. We'll watch that scene real quick so you can see how it was transferred from the storyboard to the movie. Go. 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 154.47. Yep. Good call. Right here is where that storyboard started. There's the Velociraptor comes through, turns around, kicks it in the face. It falls down. He grabs her. And Krause comes up and gets her.
So you can see how those 6 pictures, or 8 pictures turn into that like 10, 15 seconds, yeah. So, I mean, if you're going all out, like, there's a lot of work that can be put into it, obviously. For our level, that's perfectly fine.
And it's a little bit easier with like live films like this, or the kind of films that we'll be making to go without a storyboard, because you kind of can conceptualize in your head a little bit easier. But like if you ever watch a documentary or any interactions with like Pixar, they storyboard literally everything down to like the minusculest details, because they have to animate it. And each animation of those scenes takes hours and hours and hours, and they decide they don't need it, and that's tons of wasted time and money and resources. So it also kind of depends on your project as well. So like dialogue scenes don't really need a storyboard, like we were saying. Action scenes, a little bit more. Animated scenes, definitely. Anything with like CGI or anything like that is also pretty big. Stuff like that. Something else to think about when you're storyboarding or whatever.
Yeah. So, I think we've pretty much covered just about as much as we can for pre-production. So you guys can like start getting ideas, start forming your own ideas, your own stories, and what you want to do. So, I'm going to pull up the list.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
No?
Can we film with the GoPro?
Once you win it.
For this, but like, does anyone have a GoPro to film with?
Actually, OTV has a contour realm,
That one?
and you could use that if you want.
That'd be cool.
So,
This is the new room. This one's like waterproof now without the case.
nice. Yeah, I don't know about OTVs. I think it's an older one, but it still has like the head strap.
More
I
for
believe
like
you
an
guys have.
angle kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and like you can get very creative with your equipment. That's again looking at your resources and seeing what you have.
That's why I was asking about my resources.
Good call.
Before I figured out
Call.
how to camera in my hand.
You know, and that's what's really cool about like the mountable cameras. Is you can get some really, really interesting shots with them, and it's becoming much more accessible, which is really cool. So here, that's not it. That's for a class.
Well, so it's I mean, each member of the team picks a word. So I'm just trying to kind of catch up on the format.
Each video that's being submitted has its own word.
One word.
Correct.
That is your title, and that's what.
Sure.
25% of the judging will be based on how well your video is connected to your word. So if we can't see the connection easily, and just by watching your video and hearing your title, you're not going to do too well in the judging. So bear that in mind when making it, is that you should be trying to turn this one word into a concept for a video that's easily recognizable.
Yeah. And get creative with it. You know,
Yeah.
if it's super obvious, like it wasn't like a stretch of creativity, it's not going to receive as good of a score.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's still going to receive a score if it's connected to title.
Yeah.
That's
We're not
a given.
going to be like, oh, it's really connected, but no, 0. Like, we're not going to do that. But so creatively connecting your title to your video is a big part of this challenge. So, and the judging for the videos, I think, will also be like, it'll be basically like 25% pre-production, 25% production, 25% post-production, and then 25% creativity connected to the title type of thing.
What the hell? What are you doing?
So does that mean we're turning in our storyboarding and screenplays, scripts? for
It'll
the
be,
production portion?
when we watch the video, it'll usually be pretty evident if you were prepared for it.
Yeah.
I do not know why this is.
I mean, also like pre-production is also creating your story, creating your characters, creating the plot arc, that sort of thing. So that's also something we'll be judging on is how good your stories is. If you make if you rip something off or if you create a really crappy story, then it's. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to create a crappy story, but like I'm just saying, like so if you have really really good characters or really really good plot progression or whatever, or it's very clear how the scene progression was well laid out and well thought out, you're going to score higher.
Okay.
And you're welcome to turn in storyboards and scripts with the film if you want to. I mean, definitely. I'm sure people would like to look at that and see that sort of thing. So we won't require it, but it's definitely an option if you would like to.
I don't know why it's not opening the list. 1 second. Yeah, script is weak. Oh, whoops. Now it's catching up. Here we go. Okay, so. So here's the list. You're free to come up here and look at the list, and if you see something that stands out to you, put your name in the box next to it. Good?
And email address.
Yes, that's you. That's you. Have at it.